Hey everyone, hope you're all doing well. I have a couple of things to start with. The first is that it is officially almost 1 year that I've been at my new job, which is good. So it's I've been keeping track of it because a lot of the times I've kind of run into situations where I haven't been at this job a full annual cycle yet, so I didn't yet have a feeling of exactly what happens when and how things really work out. And I think that so far it's gone really well. I've really enjoyed the position. I think that generally speaking, they're pretty happy with me. That I get along with all of my coworkers. That I like. I like my workspace, and so it's all pretty good actually. So that's all positive things. Um, I guess the second thing is that I last night for some reason my Microsoft Word wasn't working. So I spent about 45 minutes trying to troubleshoot the problem and eventually just bought the newest version, which wasn't too expensive. I think it was like $70 for an annual lease or subscription or whatever they want to call it. And I mean, so far it's gone pretty well. I was using, I guess, a download that I already had a product key for a long time. But all things considered, especially when you think about how often I use the program, and I pretty much use it for everything, keeping track of my video notes, personal stuff, as well as, of course, obviously writing. So it really just seemed like it wasn't that bad of an expense. Plus, Shrag pointed out I can write it off on my taxes next year. But it's all very very. I don't know. I feel good about it because I was able to solve the problem. Uh, I wasn't able to get the original program to work because it was having issues with the DLL files, and that usually I think is something that I don't have the expertise to fix if I even could have. But all things considered, I think it was ultimately a good thing, or at least not too bad of a thing. So I have the latest version of Word and all the other programs. So I uninstalled the older versions because they don't work anyway anymore, and I guess I'll take it from there. But overall, I think it was at least an easy fix. So, well, once I decided to just go with the current version. Um, but this is a good thing because I can download the program from the website if I need to, and all that kind of good stuff. So, in writing news, I can say that I am getting very close to finishing a draft on a novel, which is nice to be able to say. Um, I think that after a lot of back and forth, that I've kind of finally figured out what seems to work for me, what seems to work for uh, for all the mental health stuff, and what kind of workload I think I can comfortably do without stressing out about it, and what works for me. It may not be as much or as fast as I want it to be, but one step at a time. I think maybe at some point I might try and work on increasing what I do on a daily basis. But at least for now, it's been sustainable, it's been good, and it's gone pretty well, I think. So, it's progress, which I guess is the key thing that I've always been struggling with for a few reasons. Um, but I'll get into that eventually. But that being said, I think that once I finish the big project, I will probably try and finish the one of the little projects that I was working on, and then at some point maybe try and do a little of both because I would like to try and have pretty much a big project being worked on at any given time, and maybe a small project as a secondary focus. Just when I have time, just sort of like so that I can have large things to work on as well as smaller things that can be released on a more frequent basis and start to slowly rebuild things from there. But at some point, I still have to look over the short story that I started and got stuck on, or maybe not got stuck on, but just switched gears and was trying to finish the current project that I'm working on, which is Winterfall. because I would like to finish the first project of that and then maybe wrap up a couple of other things that are sort of almost done but not quite, and move on from there and just kind of spend the rest of the year focusing on at least one other large project, and we'll see how all that goes. But there's a lot of things that I still need to do, that I still want to do, and it is probably going to take a while before I get it all figured out, but it seems to be working well enough for now. And I'm working on the last chapter, which might be the hardest one, I guess, because it's always tricky to figure out, how to leave things. But I think I've got an idea on exactly how I want to end it, and I think it'll be good. Um, as far as video news, today I am working on a vlog as usual. I am going to try, I think, to finish, record the video work for a book review and maybe the audio for another, and get that ready for the next time I do some reviews. I'm probably going to start trying to alternate between shooting session working on a video review of books and the other one working on other topics, and see if I can't get a regular rhythm going. Let's see. But the video review I'm working on, Star Trek Picard's Second Self. I'm going to try and do the video plate for that. And once I have that, let's see, I still have to record Squirrel Girl, and we'll see how far I feel like going. But the audio shouldn't take too long to record, and it definitely is a good book that I really enjoyed. But I think that once I finish the 2 books that I'm reading, I'm probably going to read some fandom projects for a while. I still have 2 or 3 of them that are on the list of things for me to review, and I anticipate good things. They're both, I guess, multiple parts. I think you would probably I'd be able to categorize both of them as anthologies. But that being said, I can sort of kind of review them in chunks if necessary. Because usually with novels, I like to read the whole thing and then start to put my thoughts into the script while they're still fresh, while I've still got an idea of exactly what I want to say, of what struck me as what worked, what didn't, how it hit me personally. And again, even if it's a book I don't like, not necessarily criticizing the book, but just how it felt as far as how it pertained to me. Because there are some books that I've read that I don't think are very good. And, this is not for any given author to take it personally, because I don't do things like that. But sometimes there's just books that it just doesn't work for me, and that's really all that I try and do with my reviews. Like, I try and give a fair, relatively spoiler-free assessment of each respective book's strengths and weaknesses, and just kind of just say, this is what I felt. Maybe you'll feel differently, but this is kind of how it hit me, and maybe you'd like to read it, maybe not. And I think that I'm relatively thorough. I think that I'm fair, and I think that I am usually pretty good at picking apart, but not nitpicking, the important things, picking apart what I think the author could do better. It's kind of things that I would like people to tell me when I work, when the shoe is on the other foot. It's like, I don't want anybody to ever be mean, and that's why I am never I try never to be mean with my reviews, and I think I do that well. But it's all a learning process, especially early on. And although I know that we never want to necessarily find out that we might have screwed up or something, but sometimes it's important to know how our stories hit different audiences, because we can't necessarily control how everybody's going to react to it. But sometimes it's important to know, maybe there's things that we do that we don't realize we're doing, and things of that nature. So I would definitely like to review a couple of fandom productions. I still have to do the Red Vixen Adventures. There's another book that I started that I might actually have to start over because it's been long enough that I just kind of lost it. And for some reason, um, maybe it's a psychological thing, but it's tough for me to read stuff on a computer, which is funny because it's like if I have a Kindle book, a Kindle version of your book, I can read it relatively straightforward. If I have a paper version, I can do that. But if I get sent a file, it always ends up just kind of languishing because there's just this little, I don't know, mental hesitancy to read it, to go back to it, to be able to keep track of it. Maybe just because there's no easy way to mark where you are. It could just be that simple, because I know that some people, that if the website takes a second longer to load, 20% of people are going to go elsewhere. Um, Stuff like that really does affect people, and that's why I bought a physical copy of the Adventures of the Red Vixen, or Royce Day's book anthology, Complete Adventures of the Red Vixen, or something. Apologies for forgetting the title right now, but I do want to read it, and especially because what I read of his work in the anthology, Swordmaster's Tale, was very good. In fact, it was pretty much the best of the lot, and I think I said that at the time. And I would definitely like to see more of what he has to offer, because quality furry fiction is like gold. It's really hard to find because a lot of people don't really know what they're doing. And not to say that, I mean, we have a lot of good authors in the fandom, and also it depends on what you're going for. And part of the fun of reading other authors, I guess, is that you come across stories that you never would have come up with yourself. Because either because you write in a different field, or just because it's something that it's fun to see other people's work sometimes. And eventually I hope to be able to do that more, to share more of my work with everybody. I know for a long time it's just kind of been one of those things where it's just like I have so much work to share, but I've just been hesitant to I guess release it. Not because I don't think it's good, but partly because I've had this thing where it's just like I don't want to release something good and then have nothing. And I think for a long time it was that fear of being able to be consistent, of just not being able to regularly produce anything, even if it wasn't necessarily good work. Uh, and part of that was one of the things that always kind of messed with my head. And I don't know if anybody else has that. I know that it was a big thing for me, and it probably cost me a lot of years of hesitation. But I mean, some of the things that I've learned from the writing group and from just trial and error and just maybe just dumb luck that things finally clicked. I've kind of picked up some things that have finally helped me move forward a little bit, and it's momentum. With a little bit of movement, you're finally going to get more and more and more, and we'll see how that goes. So, as far as books I'm reading, I am about halfway through Star Trek Harm's Way, which is the follow up to the Vanguard and Seekers series. And it's very good, as I usually expect books from this author to be. And I'm looking forward to seeing how it finishes, because Star Trek books are almost always a good experience. Not 100% of the time. I didn't really like Peter David's last book because it just didn't feel like it made a lot of sense to me. Billed as a TNG book when it really wasn't. Well, it kind of was. It was half TNG, I guess, but I don't know. It just, nothing he did in that book really worked for me that I can recall, and it just wasn't a book for me. Although on the plus side, it did lead into the best trilogy I've ever read, so it was kind of like a heck of a, a tonal shift. But it was a real disappointment, having read the trilogy and then finding out that this was what led into it. But at the very least, the trilogy itself was very good. But it was written by David Mack, so again, there was no expectation that that would not be the case. And I'm closing in on the last 10% of Gideon the Ninth. I still have a little more to read. And, I think my review on this one is going to be a little mixed, because it's sort of making more sense the closer I'm getting to the end. but I think I missed something somewhere, and I'm not exactly sure why that is, but we'll get into that in the actual review. Um, and I want to finish that, but then, like I said, after I finish these two, my focus is probably going to be on fandom books for a little while, and then after I finished some of those, maybe I'll switch gears to some of the other stuff, because I mean the thing with anthologies is that they're broken up into pieces, so I don't necessarily have to read the whole thing in one, not one sitting, but not a session or something, because I usually try and read each book respectively from start to finish. And one of the reasons why I tend to issue larger books is because it gets, I don't know, I start feeling like I'm standing still, I guess, with some of these. And I recall, I think it was called Anathem. It was the only book that I remember reading that was like 1,000 pages that I really liked. And it was kind of weird. It didn't seem like it was one of my usual books, but it was very good. I remember I enjoyed it, and I recommended it to my partner. But most books, if they're longer than a certain length, which is funny because I write long books, or at least that's the plan anyway. I get it gets tough for me to want to keep going unless it's a really good book. But anyway, as far as other things, I don't think I have too much right now, just because I'm kind of waiting on a few things. I still need to figure out visiting mom. I gave her a bunch of ranges of dates that I have available. Some of them are better than others, and I think one of them might actually be off the table at this point, but I need to try and find that. See if I can't get that taken care of. I did get my new debit card. Unfortunately, it has my old name on it, so I went to the bank and got that fixed. So hopefully that'll be corrected. And I guess that's it, because there's not really a whole lot to talk about right now, but other than the usual topics. But beyond that, I guess I will see everyone later.
If you like werewolves, check out my book Blue Moon, available in paperback and ebook on Amazon.
Thanks for watching, and if you liked it, click the subscribe button and leave a comment below. You can also find me on Twitter and a few other places on the web, or support me via Patreon or Ko-fi. Zebra hugs!